Welcome to our Kabbalat Shabbat. I don't remember what week of the quarantine we're in anymore, 20, 21, 19, I don't know, some week. So we're still meeting online, and we'll start, sometimes we start with Bim Bam, sometimes we don't. We'll actually start with Bim Bam this time. I've moved a little bit of the music around as well. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, cheery berry berry bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, cheery berry berry bim bam. Bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam. Shabbat, shalom, Shabbat, shalom, Shabbat, 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 shalom, Shabbat, shalom, Shabbat, shalom, Shabbat, 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 shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam, cheery, berry, berry, bim, bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam. So welcome everybody. In digging around through things to prep for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, ironically enough, I found a bunch of really good poems and readings from the Reform movement for Shabbat, some of which work really well for us. And this one in particular caught me today, so I'd like to share this one. And it goes like this. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished? Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat, abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time. Contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat, abide. And as we often do, we'll start into our service in earnest by singing Hine Matov together while apart. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet amim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet amim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet amim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet amim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet amim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet amim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet amim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet amim One of our new readings for this week is a reinterpretation of Psalm 104. Psalm 104 in a lot of Siddurim is known as one of the songs of Shabbat. So it is a psalm that's usually recited on Friday night, and really is not so much a psalm about Shabbat as it is a meditation on the wonders of nature. So Rabbi Jeffrey Falek at the movement's founding temple in Michigan has reinterpreted Psalm 104. And what we'll do is, I've set this up because it's new. I've set it up so that we can read it responsively. I'll read the stuff in block. You can read the stuff in italics. And again, because Zoom is what it is, we kind of do this with all muted in our own places. So Psalm 104 reinterpreted. When we peer at the sky, it looks as if it were spread like a tent cloth. Below it the clouds, chariot-like, moving on the wings of the wind. The moon and the sun mark our days and our nights. Circadian rhythms bring forth the beasts of the forest, who at night seek their prey. When the sun rises, they return to their places of rest as humans begin their day. There is the sea, vast and wide, with its creatures beyond number, living things great and small. How many are the marvels that are found upon earth? How full is the earth with life? And as we start to greet Shabbat, as we often do, we will do our version of Shalom Aleichem, which, as it always does, is a song that welcomes people who want to keep peace, and then in anticipation actually bids them farewell as well. Shalom Aleichem, Ohavei HaShalom, Shomrei Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Rodfei HaShalom, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Ohavei HaShalom, Shomrei Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Rodfei HaShalom, Shalom Aleichem. Boachem leshalom, Ohavei HaShalom, Tzedchem leshalom. Miyom zeh leyamim habayim, Shalom Aleichem. Boachem leshalom, Ohavei HaShalom, Tzedchem leshalom. Miyom zeh leyamim habayim, Shalom Aleichem. And as I mentioned before, it means peace to you, those who love peace, guardians of peace. Peace to you, pursuers of peace. Come in peace, those who love peace. Go in peace. From today and in all the days to come, peace to you. And if you have candles, you are welcome to light candles. I have candles here as well, so if you don't have candles, assuming my lighter lights, I've got you covered. Nivarech et haor ba'olam, Nivarech et haor ba'adam, Nivarech et haor shel Shabbat. Let us bless the light in the world. Let us bless the light in humanity. Let us bless the light of Shabbat. Would someone like to do the blessing over wine?
Sure, I'll do
Great.
it.
Thanks.
Nivarech et bore pri hagafen. Let us bless those who create the fruit of the vine.
And would someone like to do the blessing of bread? Great.
נברך את המוציאים לחם מן הארץ. Let us bless those who bring forth bread from the air.
Thank you.
On the house.
On the house. And as we do most weeks now, we will sing Lecha Dodi. This is a song that we're sort of piloting some of our online choral stuff with for the high holidays. As proof of concept, Lecha Dodi isn't a thing that you typically sing on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, but people like the melody, and it's a good way to test out new things. So that's what we've been doing. Ya lai 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 la la lai. Ya lai 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 la la lai. Ya lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 la la lai. Ya lai 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 la la lai. Ya lai 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 lai. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'necha, ki et habracha hi mevia, besimcha, berina u'vetzahala, penei Shabbat, nekabela, lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela, lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 la la lai. Ya lai 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 la la lai. Ya la la lai lai lai. Ya la lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 la la lai. Ya lai 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 la la lai. Ya la la lai lai lai. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. Penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabela. And in the past, we've talked a little bit about how this imagery of the Shabbat bride is used in Lecha Dodi. And it's a little more poetic and figurative than sometimes humanistic Judaism can be. And so sometimes the imagery is a little bit new and a little bit awkward. But it's so tightly tied to how Shabbat starts in much of the Jewish world that it seemed like if we had a humanistic version, and we did, it was worth keeping around and using as a way of being able to kind of tie in with others, and so that we're recognizable as something Jewish. One of the interesting things about the Torah portions that we're going through right now in the traditional cycle, because we're in the book of Deuteronomy, one of the interesting things about that is things that people know from just general being in the Jewish world very often come from Deuteronomy. So last week's Torah portion had the first paragraph of the Shema in it. This week's Torah portion has a second paragraph. So frequently, we know, people know the Shema Yisrael line, and then maybe they know the Ve'ahavta. And the Ve'ahavta is where you get some of the discussion of putting up mezuzot, and it talks about what rabbinic tradition takes to be tefillin. This is not at all clear from the Torah, by the way, that the instruction is put boxes on your head and your arm. That's not what the text says. This week has the second paragraph, and the second paragraph of the Shema is actually, in some ways, the most important paragraph from a traditional perspective, because the second paragraph of the Shema is the one that says, here's what happens if you don't follow the rules. And this kind of paragraph appears in Deuteronomy all over the place. Deuteronomy, as a name for the book in Greek, means second law or repeated law. And actually, there's some repetition, but there's a whole lot of new stuff in play. And the ideas behind the Shema are some of the new things that are very much in play. And one big part of it is the second paragraph of the Shema, which is really what ends this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is a cave. A cave ends with the second paragraph of the Shema. And the second paragraph of the Shema just kind of lays it out. If you follow the rules, you'll prosper in the land. And if you don't follow the rules, you will be blotted out like the nations that came before you. That's really the proposition that's set forth in the second paragraph of the Shema. And it's why it's really hard to rework that paragraph, and we don't do it. But it's also a really important paragraph for another reason. It's really one of the paragraphs of the Torah that sets up all the propositions for traditional Judaism after the destruction of the first temple, because that's the paragraph that really says, okay, here's why we were kicked out of our land. Here's why the temple was destroyed. Here's what we have to do to be able to get it back. So that paragraph, which is probably 2,500 years old, is actually really, really core to setting up what becomes Judaism for a really long period of time. So, our historical understanding of how these texts get put together lets us see this paragraph for what it is, which is fundamental to how we get Judaism that looks like what Judaism will become. But it also lets us see that that wasn't necessarily an original idea for Judaism. It wasn't the core thing that really animated things before the destruction of the first temple. So again, we see Judaism change, Judaism adapts, and you can watch it happen if you know what you're looking for in the text of the Torah. So all of that is to say, things change, we change things. And almost every single Torah portion provides at least that as a lesson for us. Not that it's trying to provide that lesson, but that's the lesson that you can draw from almost every Torah portion. Except if you're watching Fiddler on the Roof, and then Perchik says the purpose of the story of Jacob and Laban is to teach you to never trust an employer, which isn't necessarily bad wisdom either. We haven't actually read this poem in a couple of weeks. Would somebody like to read this for us?
And
May all those who put themselves at risk to care for the sick remain safe. Physicians and nurses and orderlies, technicians and home health aides, EMTs and pharmacists, respiratory therapists and essential workers who navigate the unfolding dangers of the world each day, to tend to those they have sworn to help. May they come home and go out in safety. May their fear be eased and they and their families sustained. May they be strong that they may bring strength. May they stay healthy that they may bring healing. May they again know a time when they can breathe without fear. May the work of their hands bring blessing. And may the sickness pass from among us speedily and in our days. Rabbi Ayelet Cohen Adapt.
Thank you. As we do every week, this is an opportunity for us to kind of mark people in our communities that it doesn't have to be Mahar as a community, by the way. It can be, we have lots of communities that we tie into. Members of our families, members of our communities, friends that are ailing or in need of help. If you want to mention somebody aloud, you can feel free to turn your microphone on to do that. If you just want to put that person in the chat, you can do that as well. And if you don't want to share it all, that's always an option as well. Knowing that we're thinking about these people, and thinking about these people doesn't magically make things better, but it can motivate us to do something for them. As well, many of us have lost loved ones this time of year, or circumstances are that we are remembering somebody that we've lost, or we're worried about somebody. And if you'd like to share the name of somebody that you're actively mourning or whose absence you feel, please feel free to share that person's name as well. And mentioning here again, Rebel 1, who is the son of Mahar member Marlene Platt and brother to Mahar member Brenda Platt, and my Aunt Jackie, who has begun a course of cancer treatment, which I guess I didn't know was supposed to start yet, but thank you, Mom, because I didn't remember the timing. So I'll lead our Humanistic Kaddish. If you want to read this along with me, you can. If there's something else you want to read along, or you want to sit privately with your thoughts or whatever, you are, of course, absolutely welcome to do that. Nitkadal v'nitkadash beruach ha'adam. Let us enhance and exalt ourselves in the spirit of humanity. Let us acclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us, each in our own way, take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May healing and peace permeate and comfort all of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yehi, may it be so. Thank you, Vicki. And as always, I say, we end our Mourner's Kaddish with Na'aseh Shalom, which recognizes our obligation to bring peace, as opposed to simply hoping it comes from somewhere. Na'aseh Shalom ba'olam, Na'aseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, ve'imru, imru shalom, Na'aseh Shalom ba'olam, Na'aseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. This is a new text for us tonight as well. I mentioned the Shema and its first paragraph, the Ve'ahavta, and this is an adaptation of the traditional text by John Dickman, who is a longtime member of the Society for Humanistic Judaism and other congregations within our movement. Would somebody like to read this for us and lead us?
I'll read it.
Thank you.
Hafta, and you shall love. Therefore, we strive to lead loving, compassionate lives with our heart, with our wisdom, and with our actions. These words we inscribe on our innermost heart. We aspire to practice them day and night, teaching them diligently to our children through our words and especially through our deeds, so that the next generations learn to revere and celebrate life.
Thank you. We've come to our concluding song, Od Yavo Shalom. As is the case in many congregations, right between Mourner's Kaddish and the last song is when you get announcements. We're not an exception in this case, because I'm the one making the announcements. This is, I guess, when I feel like I should make them. So we will have Havdalah tomorrow night. We did have Kids and Family Shabbat today until my internet connection crashed. So I'm working on a video that we can put up as a kind of a backup for that as well. So that will be available, and then we can let people know that it's out there, because the Kids and Family Shabbat time doesn't work for everybody. Just like this time doesn't really work for everybody. The next session of David Wittenberg's class on a history of ancient Israel and Judah will be on Tuesday. As well, this Sunday in the morning, I think it's in the morning, is an adult ed session on understanding the annexation plans for the West Bank that the state of Israel is working with. And that will be led by Max Moss, who is somebody who actually lives in Israel right now and is an expert on this kind of thing. So please make sure, if you want to see that session, that you register in advance, because you'll have to be given a link directly to it. And does anybody have, before we sing our concluding song, does anybody have anything they'd like to share for, I guess you'd call it, the good of the order?
I will share that I'm planning to do a Zoom tutorial on Sunday at 7 p.m. So if anyone is interested, they should contact me. I'm doing it for the Adult Ed Committee, but anybody can join.
We should market that. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to market it, but we could, I guess.
Good. Sure.
And Myrna says that Max Moss will help us understand the whole confusing picture regarding Israel, and it is very confusing. I have friends who go, wait, wasn't Netanyahu indicted? How does he get to be prime minister and run for prime minister again? And, you know, it's confusing and complicated. Oop, I did the wrong thing there. Okay. So we'll sing our concluding song, Od Yavo Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Salam Aleinu Ve'al Kol Ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu Ve'al Kol Ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Salam Aleinu Ve'al Kol Ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu Ve'al Kol Ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Salam Aleinu Ve'al Kol Ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu Ve'al Kol Ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam.